Over the last 5 weeks, I lost almost 9 kilograms of weight. To do so, I've been dieting, riding my Brompton a lot, and learning how I can change my lifestyle to actually help me lose weight. And I figured out that some weight loss strategies are much more effective than others. I'm Stas, and in this video, I want to share with you my learnings, tips, and tricks that helped me to lose weight so far. The first thing that I want to talk about is diet. So there are 6 main learnings that I got over the last few weeks on diet. So the first point, it's pretty much unavoidable to change your dietary habits if you want to lose weight. Lots of people, including myself, have this misconception that you can actually go to the gym or cycle or exercise a lot and lose weight and get into shape. In vast majority of cases, for pretty much all the people, this is not the case. I still think that it's very helpful to exercise and maintain active lifestyle and actually exercise quite a lot if you want to lose weight, but for different reason rather than just a weight loss. So let's talk about it in a bit more detail further on. The second point is measuring calories. So I've been measuring calories on the daily basis for everything that I eat, and it was extremely insightful experience to me because I learned lots of new things about the food that I eat, and it pointed me in the right direction, hopefully, to change my diet in order to lose weight. Out of all the learnings, I would say I condensed them into 7 main rules. So rule number 1, sugar is your main enemy. Sugar should be avoided or mitigated at all costs. Second point, starving and not eating anything is not a good idea. You still want to eat a reasonable volume and amount of food, and in order to do so, but being still mindful about the calorie intake, veggies is your best friend. The good thing about veggies is that you can be very creative in terms of cooking them to maintain variety, different flavors and textures, and they're also full of fiber. That is also extremely helpful. So you can eat lots of veggies and still be very reasonable with your calorie intake throughout the day. Point number 3, starch is sugar's little sidekick. So that's your enemy number 2. It makes a lot of sense to avoid starchy food. So things like rice, potatoes, pasta, bread, etc. are also not good for the purposes of the weight loss. Point number 4, it makes a lot of sense to have at least some protein, either with every meal or with your biggest meals. But leaner or lighter proteins are better. So less red meat, more eggs, cottage cheese, chicken breast, and the like. Rule number 5. It makes sense to avoid highly processed food if you are aiming to lose weight. And there are 2 reasons behind it. First reason, highly processed food conceals sugar, starch, salt, highly saturated fats, and other things that we don't want to have in our diet in order to lose weight. The second point, while processing food, you usually destroy fiber. And fiber is something that we really want in the diet. Why exactly it's the case, I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Then point number 6, try to snack with vegetables, with proteins, with nuts, but not sugary food or sandwiches or sweets or cookies, etc. I was absolutely petrified with the amount of calories that I am picking up on the daily basis while eating sandwiches or cookies or anything like that in between my main meals. And then the last rule here, if you randomly have a craving out of the blue, drink first, eat second. Lots of people, including myself, confuse thirst with hunger. So by eating when drinking can actually solve the craving, they pick up unnecessary calories, which is very, very true in my case. The next big point that I picked up about diet is cooking. So cooking is extremely helpful for weight loss, and in some sense, I would say it's pretty much unavoidable. There are 2 main reasons behind it. Reason number 1, cooking gives you very profound level of control on what exactly do you eat. Also mirroring the point on highly processed food. To lose weight, you need to moderate amount of sugar, starch, salt, highly saturated fats, etc. And when you cook food yourself, you can actually manage and control these kind of things relatively easily. And then the second point, your third main enemy after sugar and starch is boredom. Cooking helps you with some additional creativity and kind of mindfulness about it to pack lots of variety, lots of textures, lots of flavors into a balanced, healthy, and reasonably caloric food, so you can actually lose weight. Next point regarding the diet, it's very important what you eat, but it's surprisingly important when and how you actually eat it. The reason behind it is the following. When you eat lots of sugar rapidly, you have a crazy spikes of glucose in your bloodstream, which is no good. There are abundant scientific evidence saying that having spikes of glucose is bad for your health and it's basically a road to diabetes. If I won't go into the details of biochemistry behind it, there are a bunch of books, podcasts and articles by a lady called Jessie Inchauspe, which are extremely interesting on this point. And she basically advocates that you want to flatten your glucose curve throughout the day for all sorts of health reasons, including weight loss. Most of the things that we discussed before in these rules that I picked from calorie counting will also help, but two other ideas on top that Jessie advocates for are the following. First one, try to start your day with a savory food rather than a sweet food for your breakfast. So instead of having, let's say, pancakes with a sugary syrup or cereals with orange juice or anything like this, try to have, let's say, a boiled egg with some veggies or porridge, again with veggies or anything like that. So starting with a savory and not a sweet food is helpful. Second major point here, even within a single meal, you want to sequence your food in the following order. You want to start with vegetables, then proteins, then starch, and then sugar. If you think about it, it reminds a lot the traditional European meal. So you start with a starter, hopefully with some vegetables in it. Then you do your entree with a piece of protein and some carbs behind it. And then you go to your dessert. The logic behind it is the following. So your body spends much more time, energy, and effort to convert vegetables and proteins into energy and then push them as a glucose into your bloodstream compared to, for example, starch and sugars and these kind of foods. So eating slower food first helps to flatten the glucose spike curve. The second point, why vegetables first rather than proteins. Vegetables have lots of fiber that we also mentioned a bit before. And the key benefit of fiber, it basically creates some kind of protective layer in your stomach, which slows down the absorption of glucose into your bloodstream. So even if you, let's say, eat a piece of chocolate or a cake, but before that you have a spinach or asparagus or any other vegetable with some fiber in it, the glucose absorption will be much slower. Hence, vegetables ideally should go first. Point number 5 about the diet. I don't think it's helpful and sustainable to completely abandon guilty food in a sense that you really love, like burgers, pizza, fries, ice cream, apple pies, you name it. However, the frequency and amount of this food should be heavily moderated. Like in my case, it's not eating like a full pizza for dinner, but 1 to 2 slices will do. Especially if you accompany it with a bunch of vegetables on the side, you'll still be full, but you'll have this emotional uplift and enjoyment from the guilty food in a sense. And then the last point regarding the diet, which is probably the most strategic and actually the most important one, any kind of extreme diets or extreme measures are not helpful. Losing weight long term is not about doing something for 2 to 3 months and then getting back to your previous lifestyle. I think it's about fundamentally changing the way that you think about food, what you eat, and basically how you live your life. So if you can't imagine doing something forever, then it won't help that much for the weight loss, because after doing it for a couple of months, you'll get back to your previous lifestyle, then you'll probably rebound and gain even more weight. So unless you can do something forever, it's not helpful for the weight loss. Which is exactly, again, what happened with me trying to diet or avoid certain types of food for good before. The next point, which is actually my favorite one, is exercises. So we are all about cycling and Bromptons in this channel, after all. And there are 3 main things related to sports and exercises that I wanted to share. So first one, just to re-emphasize, exercises and cycling and whatnot is not an effective way to lose weight, unless you do it for like 5 hours per day. To give you a very practical example from my end, Recently I did London to Brighton sportive for around 55 miles, which should take somewhere between 4 to 5 hours. And to do so I did a prep session in Richmond Park for I think 4 and something hours, also cycling more than 40 miles, similar to what I'm doing now while recording this video. And I've lost 4,755 calories during the exercise, which is crazy amount if you think about it. It's pretty much twice my daily calorie intake. Can you imagine how many grams of weight that I lose the next day? 200 bloody grams of weight. As you can see, I'm still quite emotional about it, but it basically gives an example on how ineffective exercises and sports are for the weight loss. However, I still believe that exercising and doing anything like I'm doing now is still very helpful for weight loss, but for a different reason. So through the exercises, you want to gain muscle mass, which sounds counterintuitive, right? So you want to lose weight, not to gain weight with more muscles. But there is a hint to it. So muscles are the most calorie hungry type of tissue in your body. It's very surprising how much energy human body spends to just maintain muscle without any useful thing that they're doing. So the more muscles you have in your body, the higher is your basal metabolic rate. And speaking in the simple terms, the more muscle you have, the more cookies you can eat per day and still be lean, nice and thin. To gain weight effectively, the best way is to do a resistance training. So lift weights, work with the rubber bands, dumbbells, and all these kind of things. So in my case, I originally planned to do 4 cycling sessions per week, and I skipped one of them in favor of resistance training to gain muscle mass in the areas of my body where cycling does not help much. So my shoulders, my hands, my chest, etc. And then the last point on exercising is about high intensity interval training, or HIIT. So in my weekly routine, I'm doing 2 HIIT sessions, and I think HIIT is very good to burn calories and weight fast. So I measured amount of calories that I burned per minute while doing HIIT training, and something that I'm doing right now, so long-term low intensity endurance ride. And HIIT gave me 20 to 30% higher calorie burn rate per minute, which, to be honest, is much less than I would originally thought, reading all sorts of stuff about it. I did not account for afterburn effect in this calculation. So the good thing about HIIT, that it can help burn calories and weight even after you complete the exercise, which probably will give another 25 to 30% on top. So HIIT in totality is probably 50 to 60% more efficient in burning calories and excessive weight compared to your long-term endurance, low-intensity exercises like I'm doing right now. But to be honest, I think if you still do, let's say, your cycling ride for 3 or 4 hours, you'll still burn lots of calories, and the benefit for your body is pretty much complementary. So at least in my case, I think it makes sense to have both high intensity and endurance trainings, as well as muscle mass and resistance trainings throughout the week. And that's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it and it was helpful. I plan to post next update on my weight loss journey in 3 to 4 weeks. So please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and to support me on my weight loss journey. I wish you all the best on your cycling journey, and see you next time.